May not be able to do much about the weather, but we do need a better plan for putting out a burning city than waiting for rain. America is so partisan now that even when there's a disaster of any kind, so many people choose to defend their own team, even over death. A lot of Democrats in this one-party state this week went right to, don't blame politicians, you can't do anything about the wind. Which is exactly half true, the wind part. Yes, fire is a tough fight out here, and yes, global warming absolutely makes it worse. But that's largely out of our control. What are we going to do, pass a ballot measure to make sure Chinese stop burning coal? It's also, yes, undeniably true that LA is built in a stupid place to build a city. But when it's not on fire, it's really quite lovely. And it's my home. And stupid as its origin may be, it's not going anywhere. Axios ran a story on how getting the water out of the hydrants in Pacific Palisades was more complicated than it seems. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very complicated. That's why I pay 13% of my income in this state every year to people who I assumed were working on things like this.
And that's why we moved out of California.
Yeah, how can you say it's complicated when you're the experts? The whole purpose of that article was to take the blame away from Democrat politicians. Why would you say it's complicated?
Yeah.
I know it's complicated.
Yeah.
That's why we have experts running our water system.
Yeah, they make it seem like it's an honest mistake.
When asked why so many of the hydrants in the Palisades ran out of water, Governor Newsom said the local folks are trying to figure that out. Yeah, you got to do that before the fire. At least in the Palisades, the hydrants were still there. 300 other ones around the city are just gone, stolen for parts. One of the 3 reservoirs for the Palisades was offline at the one time of year when it was most needed. LA's Mayor Karen Bass, the Nero of American politics, was fiddling in Ghana while the city burned and later placed the blame on 8 months of negligible rain and winds that have not been seen in LA in at least 14 years.
What?
Yeah, that's not that long a time. Maybe look in the history books to see how our ancestors handled it back in 2 and 11.
Yeah. I don't know why they keep blaming it on like lack of rainfall.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that Southern California is actually a desert. It's when you get 10 inches of rain or less a year, it makes it a desert. This is nothing new. Yeah. They even wrote songs about this. It never rains in Southern California.
Right.
You can't blame it on climate change. It's...
The mayor said about cuts to the fire department's budget, there were no reductions that were made that would have impacted the situation. The fire chief here had a slightly different take. She said, we are screaming to be properly funded. And yes, the budget was cut, and it did impact our ability to provide service. And by the looks of all the fire engines in the boneyard out of service because we didn't fix them, she's right.
Not to mention that fire hydrants burn up or missing or stolen. Yeah.
Exposed power lines keep causing fires and keep not getting buried underground because it's expensive. I've heard people say, do you want to pay more taxes to fund this? No. I want you to use the exorbitant taxes you already collect to prioritize it.
This dude look woke. He's been on it before. He's really woke. It's dude. You know, you can look at certain people and say, man, that dude is woke. And look, he's like nodding like, I agree with you, but you shouldn't be saying this.
Yeah.
We need to stick together.
Right.
Look at his face. I can't believe you're saying this.
The power lines that cut through Topanga weren't upgraded because it endangered an herb, the milk vetch, which sounds like something they serve at Passover. I mean, talk about not seeing the forest for the trees. You know what the absolute worst thing for the environment is? Wildfires. A 22 study found that the smoke from just the two in 2020 wiped out 18 years of carbon reduction in the state, which means we suffered the pain of driving those early model Priuses for nothing. California is the place that spends money and gets nothing, which is why you may have noticed when the fires broke out, no one escaped by high-speed rail.
Remember that? Yeah. Billions wasted.
We have the highest marginal tax rate in America, higher than almost all other states, and soon Greenland. What is included for that? Breadsticks? Because it clearly doesn't cover fire. That's government's job. Protect us from crime, violence, theft, fire. I'm not saying Alabama would have done better with fires by fighting them with prayer in school. But look me in the eye and tell me anyone could have done worse. We just got our ass kicked by fire, something Neanderthals fought to a tie. The good news is our fire chief is a lesbian.
That's how she got her job.
Yeah, because that's what Californians wanted.
Yeah, like she's got over 20 years in service with the fire department.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me you didn't hire her because she's gay. That's why she has the job.
Right.
Am I against a lesbian being chief? Of course not. Do I think a lesbian can do the job? Of course I do. And maybe she's the best person for the job. Or maybe they really wanted a lesbian in that
Yep, that's what they wanted.
job, and she's just the best lesbian for the job. And with essential services, that's not good enough.
Right.
Crowley's official bio says Chief Crowley leads a diverse department, creating, supporting, and promoting a culture that values diversity, inclusion, and equity while striving to meet and exceed the expectations of the communities. Well, you didn't exceed my expectations, which was that the whole city wouldn't burn down. But it's telling that diversity is mentioned twice before we get to while striving to meet expectations. Now, can you do two things at once? Yes. But it matters where your head is. Deputy Chief Kristen Larson said this.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you.
Which would sound kind of racist if a Southern sheriff said it. So we should be sending white firefighters to White Houses and black ones to... Who teaches people this bullshit? No one cares what someone looks like when they're pulling you out of a burning house.
That's what your party's been advocating for like the last 10 years.
Yeah, should have spoke up then. Not now, then.
Yeah, you're being logical right now. Yeah. You're being rational. But where was this when Republicans came out and exposed these facts? What you call us? Racist, homophobic.
Yeah.
That's what you called us. These positions in LA, it should be based on merit. The fire chief, the mayor, it should be based on merit. Everything should be based on merit.
Yeah.
You know, you see how logical he is right now? Rational?
Yeah, but then he'll go to the voting box and he'll vote for a Democrat.
Yeah, and he voted for Kamala.
That's crazy. How can he be so smart, logical, rational,
right here,
sane individual, and then 5 seconds later he's at a voting box voting for a crazy person?
Larson also seems to believe that if a female firefighter can't pick up a man, it's his fault. She said, he got himself into the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. Well, tell that to these guys. Because who pays the highest price when politicians don't prioritize basic services? The first responders, our heroes, who every time go above and beyond because they have to, because we leave it all to them.
Yeah.
Now, is wokeness the main reason for the fires? Of course not. But
I think so.
it just goes to show you when she said that, not only does people going to be vulnerable in those houses that really need a fireman's help and they count on a fireman to be able to rescue us. Not only are they vulnerable, but the police officers, not police officers, but the firefighters, the men that also working along her side, they're vulnerable as well.
Yeah. I would call whatever that was a trans.
And go above and beyond because they have to carry him out of a fire.
Yeah, it's definitely
Look,
trans.
like look at all the work she's put into looking like a man.
Right.
If a guy does that, puts in all the work to look like a woman, you would call him a trans woman.
Right.
That's a trans man right there.
Right.
Making these crazy comments.
Right. And look at the background.
I agree with them. Y'all's head is not in the right place. It should be based on merit. Everything should be a meritocracy.
Well, tell that to these guys. Because who pays the highest price when politicians don't prioritize basic services? The first responders, our heroes, who every time go above and beyond because they have to, because we leave it all to them. Now, is wokeness the main reason for the fires? Of course not. But it's also not wrong to associate some of the unforced errors our government made with the things normies see as hallmarks of uber-progressive politics: questionable budget priorities, high taxes that get you nothing, making everything about identity politics, virtue signaling overseas instead of tending to the nuts and bolts at home. Cali has no shortage of safety commissions and agencies and bureaucrats and regulators and, of course, sign language interpreters who communicate with their face. But common sense, we better get some of that back soon, because wildfires in California are like boob jobs in a strip club. Inevitable, and they're only going to get bigger.
Wow, I know Bill Burr feel like an ass right now.
Well, he should.
Yeah.
He's talking about Bill Burr.
Yeah, he's talking about Jimmy Kimmel, too.
Yeah, but
he's talking about a lot of people just trying to push this under the rug, saying everything went well. Everybody did a great job. The firemen, with the resource they did, with the resource they had, they did the best job they could. Ain't nobody faulting them. We faulting the people for the missing fire hydrants, for the mechanics that we need to fix the trucks. The trucks just in the boneyard. No water. There's no blame to go around? Come on. That's just ridiculous.
Man, this dude, like, I'm glad he came out and did this video.
Yeah.
But, like, at the beginning of his monologue, he's talking about when he brought up Gavin Newsom about the local folks is working on what happened, what went wrong.
Right.
And he said, you're supposed to work on that before the fires.
Right.
I mean, I could say the same thing about him, Bill Maher.
Right.
Where was this?
Yeah. Before this happened.
When Republicans and conservatives was calling this nonsense out.
Not only Republicans and conservatives, but moderates. Liberals was calling them out for it.
And this is what happens.
Yeah.
And he says that this wasn't caused by being woke. That's exactly the cause and reason for why this happened.
Yeah.
You're focusing on the wrong thing.
We're not blaming the fire on wokeness, but how you handled the fire was definitely woke. You didn't put the fire out. It looked like to me the fire burnt out by itself. Nobody was able to put it
You
out.
don't think being woke caused this?
To a certain extent, they could hire people like fire watchers.
No, think about it. Your mayor is woke.
Right.
Your fire chief, man, if you hire the right people based on merit, this doesn't happen. But
The fire doesn't happen, or the extent of the fire.
The extent of the damages of the fire doesn't happen.
That's what I'm saying. The extent.
Like, you could actually blame the voters too. This is what y'all wanted in this state. This is what you get. This is what it caused it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It still will be a fire, no less. But I'm just saying the extent of the fire will be much less. They would be able to corral the fire and didn't allow the fire to commit this much, make this much damage.
Man, look at this dude. And this dude still, being as logical as he is right now, he still voted for Kamala.